Happy holidays and welcome to another $100 million Mindset. This is part 4 of Alan and I hand selecting the best themes of the year and then bringing them to you. And this episode is not going to be just about wins, but it's also going to be about strategies. I'm taking a look here at my notes. I really like the conversations that are coming up because they reveal what real growth actually costs, not just in time, energy, and money, but in people and trust and credibility, all those things that are important to us. Because we talk a lot about business, we talk a lot about revenue, we talk a lot about sales, we talk a lot about systems and momentums, but what we don't often consider enough of it are the actual human cost. And that's why in today's episode, I'm speaking, and so is Alan. We're speaking with Mike Wilson, Bubba Thurman, and I've also got Alan O'Neill featured in this episode because what we know is that it takes real leadership to build businesses at scale. I'm even going to talk about some of the challenges that we have faced in our business when Mike and I when Mike and I get into a conversation about the hardships that we go through when we're trying to do something important to us. I think that you will like this episode a lot. Because here's one of the things that I know. When we are going through hard times, and this is the holiday season, so for a lot of you, it's not actually joyful as you'd wish. It's the end of the year, things are moving, it's stressful. But this is what I would tell you if you're going through a stressful season right now. It's like what I told my wife in one of the hardest moments in our life. This isn't forever. It's just a season. So as long as you don't forget that, as long as you don't lose track of whether you're going through something amazing or you're going through something hard, it's just a moment in time. And I've lived through a lot of these hard seasons, and the value is that they bring us closer to the people that are important to us. It makes our relationships that are meaningful stronger. And I think that's pretty good for you to know. And you're going to hear a lot of that in today's episode because it's about life, it's about experiences. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and I hope you have an amazing holiday season. And this is today's episode of the $100 Million Mindset.
Welcome to the $100 Million Mindset, the source for business owners who aspire to scale, grow, and reach their full potential. Whether you're aiming for 5 million, 10 million, or 100 million. Your hosts are Alan O'Neill, the Irish plumber, who scaled Abacus Plumbing and Cooling to over 100 million, and Tabasco Todd Liles, a coach to high-performing business leaders and the owner of Service Excellence, are going to help you think bigger, act smarter, and take your business to the next level.
And that sounds like that's stressful. Sounds like that could be a lot of stress. I already know you work a ton of hours. How are you coping with this stress? Or am I assuming that it is stressful to you? Maybe it's not.
It's very stressful. And I want to start by saying, like, you asked my opinion on how I deal with stress,
Yeah.
and I want to say that I don't actually recommend my method to anyone because the way that I cope with stress is usually by working harder and working more because the stress that is introduced into my life is usually from something that's not going as easy as I thought it would be. And the way that I overcome those things is working harder. And whether it's like working smarter or harder or both, like for me, I absolutely think that let me back up one more because I think I'm underselling or haven't even brought up the importance of having, if you're married or if you're in a relationship with anyone, you're not the only one that is employed by the business. You're not the only one that is dealing with the stress of your job. You might think that you like leave it at the door and it doesn't affect you, but I guarantee you that like sales is just a transference of emotion, and there's no way that you can, if you're stressed at work, that those emotions are not coming home with you. So my first way that I deal with stress is I try and communicate with my wife because I know that it is going to alter the way that I show up at home. I'm trying to work on those things, but I know for a fact that it does. And so my first step with managing stress is to communicate with my wife, hey, there is a stressful situation going on at work. You might be talking to me and my eyes might be glazed over. This happened 2 days ago. We were on a walk. Like, we take walks in the evening, right? And so we were on a walk, and my brain is processing this situation that I'm dealing with at work. And I know logically that there has been a lot of silence on this walk that is usually filled with conversation. How's your day? How's your day? How did you do playing pickleball today? All of these things. And I know that there's no conversation going on, but all I'm doing, I am so in my head. And my wife processes that as like, what's wrong? And I have to communicate and be like, I promise this is not you. I've got something going on at work and my mind is elsewhere. Thank you for like pointing that out. Let me try and like, be more present. And so like I deal with the same situations that everyone else does, but if you don't have a partnership at home that supports you and is willing to like understand where you're at, it makes the stress, it actually amplifies it, because then you come back to work where the, at least for me, where the stress is, and now I've got this extra stress of like a strained relationship at home because I know I'm not doing what I need to do. So anyway, the way I deal with stress, I try and have hobbies, I try and exercise, but with the hours that I put in, like I'm up early, I come into the office early. Luckily for me, one of my hobbies is pickleball. And so when I'm not injured, I go down to the pickleball courts, and from 8 to 10 o'clock when the lights go out at night, like I'll play pickleball. Luckily, my wife does enjoys that also, so she'll come with me. I try and go on walks. I try and get some fresh air. I try and get up from my desk and go do something else to get my mind away from like the problem that I'm dealing with. But you can look for all kinds of ways to deal with stress. But for me, having a partner that understands that I'm dealing with some shit and that they're there supporting me and making me not feel bad for having to like focus on this problem. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear, but like, dealing with that stuff. That's my number one for dealing with stress, is having somebody that understands that I'm dealing with stuff and they're understanding and empathetic towards me.
Mike, part of the joy for me of talking to you is there are things that I used to teach that I know were uniquely a byproduct of me being in the early days of Success Academy and Clockwork Home Services, and they had their book of content that they were teaching, and I had bandwidth to expand into my things that I needed to teach. And oftentimes when I was teaching you guys things, I was essentially telling you how I'm coping with it, but I used it like a teaching moment and never said I'm going through this stuff. And what you just said about going home and talking to your wife, I can remember in almost every class sharing that with you guys, not because it was a core part of the content, because it wasn't. It was because I understood that when you leave here and you're going to be role playing, you're going to be learning something new, and you're going to be stressed, that's going to take bandwidth, and you need to check that with the people that love you. I would talk to you guys about having a conversation with your kids and your wife and saying this isn't going to be forever, and we're going to be a lot better off when it's done. And I said that to my wife for 3.5 years, to the point that I didn't know, Michael, we were close to a divorce. I found out later she was going to leave me, and I'm like, I didn't even know. She's like, well, you were never around to listen to know. I also look back at that time and how I, under that stress, I got really close to God and I got really fat, both, right? And there are these will of life things that Zig Ziglar talks about. And he's like, not everything needs all of your attention all the time to stay healthy. But when one thing gets ignored and it goes flat, it'll get all of your attention. You are a grown man, but I care about you. I just advise you on those metrics that you talked about for marketing. Make sure you're paying attention to the other metrics too. Get those health metrics checked out. Know where it's at. Don't let it get caught up to you. I've had too many friends under lots of stress have that sneaky little artery disease they didn't have a clue about. These things are easy checks. Take a day, go get them checked. Because we want you here for a long time, Mike. You're a high valuable person to the industry and to your family. Can I say that
Well,
to
I
you as a
appreciate
friend?
I appreciate that, and it's funny that you say that, because when you go back on our YouTube channel, you can actually watch me get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh,
And
I'm not calling you fat. I was telling you I was fat, but I'm just saying I know what
no, but
stress
wait,
does to you.
I was. I ballooned up to like 285 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And then it got to the point where I had this moment where it was over a Christmas holiday, and I was playing racquetball with my son, and as any father knows, it should be super easy to beat your children in any kind of athletic event.
Should be.
And there was after in the middle of this game, there were moments where I remember thinking like, I know I could have gotten to that ball, but I didn't. And so anyway, I went on a journey. I lost, 55 pounds, got more active, and like I absolutely think that you you have to keep your health in check. You have to do those things, and that's why I say like I agree with you 1,000%.
For him to be a leader at a $30 million level, you have to go, hey, what have you learned? What have you, where have you grown? Where have you learned to be a better communicator? Where have you learned, how to market your business or lead your people or do training at another level? Because it doesn't stay the same and you have to grow with it or it will chew you up and spit you out. And I think that's wise to just not only recognize the growth piece, but you said another word that I think is critical, and that's rest. Um, Vince Lombardi said fatigue makes cowards of us all. And I meet so many leaders, and if I ask them, hey man, how you doing? They almost default by going, man, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I'm worn out. And to me, that's a problem because I think you make poor decisions when you're tired, fatigued, burnout. I know I do. And so rest is the other component. And I don't mean just being a sloth, I mean just mental rest. Just do something else, do something fun, you know. Self care, I think, is critical. I'm only as good to others as I am to myself, which is a biblical idea, by the way.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'll tell you what I find fascinating about people that are really hardworking go-getters is that most of them that are winning are not lazy. I've met very few people that are winning that are lazy. What I have met though are a lot of people that will absolutely fatigue themselves. And I know the amount of and I'm not even talking vacations now. I'm talking sleep. I know that varies in somewhat of degrees, but the average human needs about 7 to 8 hours. And that seems to be the place where people are sacrificing. They're working off 4 and 5 hours, thinking that that's not going to affect them, and it does. And when you look at like what the best CEOs on the planet have to say, they will say that being a great operator, being a great leader, being a great CEO, being a great president is actually substantially less about vision and vision casting. And it's substantially more about just making the next best decision quickly and accurately. And what we know is that you can't make good decisions quickly and also accurately when you are exhausted. You got to rest. Alan, when Linda came to you and said, "You're not Superman, you got to let some of this go," and you did,
hmm
what would have happened to you if you didn't?
I honestly think I'd have damaged my health, Todd, because I don't think you realize when you're in it. It's not till somebody lifts the monkey off your back that you realize the weight you've been carrying,
Hmm.
And so I think um, I would have damaged my health or I'd have damaged the company, one or the other. Because I was literally at breaking point, Todd, at that time. We
Did you
were
feel it? I mean, Linda saw it, but did you feel it?
I didn't feel it so much, Todd, because I think when you're in it, I think you learn to tolerate the stress and well, some people do. I can tolerate stress fairly well. I think I learned at least to tolerate the stress and the anxiousness and the weight of it. But I think when it's removed from you, you say to yourself,
Hmm.
how did I do that for so long?
Hmm.
So I think I'd have definitely damaged myself and we would not have grown. We would not have multiplied the way we multiplied, for sure.
Was there ever a moment when you got a little of that weight taken off of you that the exhaustion ever like hit you and you got sick and you needed a couple of days, like a cold hit you or anything like that?
No, I think for me, Todd, it was just wow. I mean, I feel so much better that I've got somebody there. And one of the things for me, Todd, is leadership is a very lonely profession when
Mhm.
you're in it on your own. You've got nobody to share the day-to-day struggles with. I mean, you can go home and talk to your wife, and I did, and she was always a great support. But I think having someone else that truly understands the business, that's in it with you, that you trust, is a huge help, because you say, hey, this is happening. What do you think? What would you do? And you've got some support. I think it's almost like a partnership to a certain degree, is huge.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, listeners, for listening. Listen, as we wrap up this season recap, I want to leave you with this thought here, which is the following: growth is not your enemy. Ambition is also not your enemy, and wanting more for your business and your team also is not your enemy. All right. So, what is the enemy? Well, the enemy is ignoring the things that are good for you. It's ignoring health. It's ignoring rest. It's ignoring the people that love you. It's ignoring goals. It's ignoring the desires of the things that you want to achieve. So don't ignore those things. And don't be scared to take a moment of rest, because when you rest, the important things come to the surface and they are strengthened. And that's a beautiful thing. So until I hear from you in the new year, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all of the great holidays, wishing you well. Have a joyful season, and we look forward to bringing you more great content. Alan and O'Neill and I both look forward to bringing you more great content in the $100 Million Mindset.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the show this week. Head over to toddliles.com/mindset to get the show notes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a new episode of the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, then share it. It really helps us get the word out. You've been watching the $100 Million Mindset with Alan O'Neill and Tabasco Todd Liles.